Yo, people, welcome back to another episode of the Football Heritage with me, your boy Josh, Ore, Ore, and Dan. It's just us three today, but I know we've been gone for a while. It's been 3 weeks. Obviously, things going about, we're all busy men, so gotta prioritize life, but always here for you. But you man know the usuals, like, comment, subscribe, and check out the Instagram. Denzel is the one that always posts now on Insta here and there. So make sure you're locked in. You're is it subscribed? What's Instagram? Following. Make sure you're following and sharing the content with your people there, minute. But there's nowhere else to start than Anfield, man. There's nowhere else to start from Anfield. Hey, you see Denzel? Denzel's a lucky guy. Denzel said he's on leave for the week, innit? Like he can't handle it, innit? And we weren't really gonna cook them, innit? We were just gonna, as Dan said, we're gonna look at it as a post-mortem. Just understanding what we found and what we've seen in it. You guys, where should we start? Where should we start? Where should we start? Because this was a spiritual beatdown. Like these men have to check their chakras. Because I think it is dusted, man. Like these men, 7-0. Is that the biggest away defeat? Is that their biggest defeat ever, isn't it?
It's their biggest defeat ever in general.
Wow. 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 All right. Begin us, man. Begin us. Where do we
Yeah,
start?
I don't even know where to start. Yeah, like the thing is, all season, in terms of United, and this isn't really like criticism of like how they play or Ten Hag, because like I feel like he's had to adapt a bit, coming into the team, with a whole lot of new players and stuff like that. But a lot of time they have relied on like transitional gameplay and like hoping like teams would come at them, and they can kind of like hit them on the break and stuff like that. Now the problem with like teams like City and Arsenal face is that like teams don't really try and come out against them. Rather, they just sit back, and Arsenal kind of have to, or City have to kind of break down the low block, and try and like score against these teams. So in terms of the transitional gameplay and stuff like that United play, the only catch about that is that when you have your chances, you have to take them. And when you don't, it could get very ugly. And I kind of think that's just what happened with Liverpool. Because United had chances in the first half. They could have gone ahead. They could have equalized and stuff like that. But they didn't take those chances. And then one became two. And then at two, it's now just seeming like there's no opportunity to break through, to counter. Liverpool get more confident. They score a third. And then from then on, you just know how it's only going to end one way, really. So yeah, like I feel like United would like obviously have to try and like sign new players and stuff like that in the summer to help their build up, help actually like go back to the basics really, and try and like see how they can start up from the back, or however they're going to play really. But yeah, like the counter-attacking transitional gameplay, it's really not sustainable. It can work, a lot of games and stuff like that, but when you actually want to talk about becoming one of the best in the leagues and stuff like that, then you would need to actually have a pattern, have a then what else again? The defense. The thing is, I don't want to be overcritical of the defense. But then in a 7-0, you kind of have to be. That's the thing. I think Lissandro has been really good this season. I've never always
Bro,
been the
what
biggest.
Salah did to him was disgusting, man.
Oh yeah,
That
no, well,
was
yeah, that was.
Yeah, but it's being blown out of proportion though. Like it is what it is. Do you know what I mean?
It is
Bro,
what it
that
is.
still image is bad, bro. That still image is bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's,
image is
that's the thing.
horrific.
That's what we always talk about, like the problem with like defenders. Like once a certain thing of such happens to you, it's kind of like attached to your name. Like look at how no one ever forgets about the Boateng and Messi thingy. Like you know, attackers can have bad games, and no one. I mean, people get attached like bad misses and stuff to them, but I still think it's nowhere near the amount of like media stigmatization like center backs get when like they get cooked, like the way Salah cooked Lissandro. I think he's had a really good season. He's been one of the best center backs this season. I'm not going to let one game, even though that game is a 7-0 defeat. I'm not going to let him, judge him too harshly. Varane, I've never really been the biggest fan, and I've always said this on here. and the thing is, like, I know people will say, his Champions Leagues, his CV, his World Cup, it's kind of hard to argue against that, being very honest. But um, with someone with a CV like that, you would actually wonder why he's not spoken about as one of the best ever center backs and stuff like that. Or, being one of the, and you can see why, really. He's not. He's a decent center back to me and stuff like that. But I've never really seen him as one of the best in the world, or the world beaters, or um and yeah, I thought yesterday he was really poor. That first goal that he conceded in Gakpo, like the defending is just, about a lot of the goals, the defending is just very. He always seems clueless sometimes, and like he doesn't know where he's going, or he doesn't know what he's doing per se. Um, and also, I think Gakpo, I think Klopp tried something with Gakpo really being like a false nine per se. And I think that really threw United off because they kind of didn't know how to defend against that. A lot about like even Fred and his positioning, it was kind of like he didn't exactly know who to mark because Gakpo and like Henderson were occupying similar spaces. So I think, yeah, and also the front, especially Gakpo and Nunes as well. Sometimes they, switch positions a bit. I think that also threw United off in a way. And yeah, I know people talk about Nunes as well, being very, people had it, but in terms of his like prowess in terms of power and physicality, like how he bursts on that left hand side when he just gets going. It's actually really scary to see. I know, his finishing, all of that stuff is very questionable, but when he has that burst on that side, he really looks like, he's definitely going to get through. And then Salah, not much to say, to my opinion, the best player in the league. And he showed again why he was. So yeah, I just thought overall quality was just probably too much a bit for United, and they just fell apart. Fatigue as well, tiredness, stuff like that. But yeah, I probably think it's a one-off. I would say. I still think they would probably still finish the season, on a bit of a high. I still think they'll make the top four and stuff like that. So, they have a trophy as well in the bag. There's two other competitions. So, they can still be, they can still be all right and carry on. But it's one of those things that you kind of have to, make sure something like this doesn't happen again and address all the issues. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying in terms of like it's kind of a one-off because you saw some of the goals, even was it Salah's goal where he volleyed it?
Yeah, the
Like it kind of
deflection, yeah, stuff like that.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't be
it
too
was
harsh
kind
on
of
stuff like that. Yeah.
mm.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was kind of just one of those games that you just fall apart and everything just kind of goes against you. But yeah, that's Anfield really. I also feel Ten Hag was also probably a bit naive. I saw a couple of it, the interviews that he did before where he was saying like when they're talking about the atmosphere and ambience of like Anfield, and he was like, "Oh, it's just a normal football field. It's just I get that you can say that kind of stuff to help motivate your players and stuff like that, but you also still have to understand that it is Anfield and Arteta or even Pep, they always make that clear whenever they're going Anfield that it's a very tough ground to play. You have to let your players know that it is a very tough ground. It's not about it's not about. I know you're trying to like help them be confident and stuff like that, but telling them it's tough doesn't mean you're making them less confident. It's just making them know that this you're just going to work much harder. Um, and yeah, I think that was. I think he probably underestimated Liverpool a bit, which probably a lot of us did actually. I thought Liverpool were going to win, but I didn't think they're going to win 7-0 for sure. So yeah, I think that's also something that he's going to have to kind of look at. But yeah,
Mm. Nah, you know what? Because Dan, I know you mentioned it in the GC, and you're always talking about Bruno and his
Oh,
limitations for
wait
a
on
team
wait
which,
wait for this. He's getting cooked. That bozo,
bro, the floor is yours, bro. Floor's yours.
bro. Do you
Speak
know?
about the game, and then you can get onto him.
Yeah, individual. Because there's two individuals that I want to cook. Because they're not even just their performance, their attitude as well is unacceptable in my opinion. But do you know? I actually, even though this is gonna sound like bad, but even though the game was 7-0, I don't actually think United, especially in the first half, were bad. Like I think the first half, I thought they were the better team. Like after the first half, I thought they were going to go on and win. Like because in transition they had, I think two or three chances in the first half that were like really clear cut chances. That on another day, if they take them, it's a very different game. Like I think Rashford had a chance where the ball came over Van
Yeah,
Dijk's head,
from the
just kind
short
of got
cross.
caught
Yeah,
under his foot,
yeah,
and Bruno had
the header. Yeah,
a sitter in the 6 yard box, which he missed the target. Um, but the second half, I think Ori mentioned it, and I think some of it has to do with fatigue because the way that they fell apart, like obviously Anfield, like you're saying, Ori, Anfield's different everywhere else. Like that atmosphere, the way that, especially the way Liverpool play as well, there's very high pressure, very demanding, and if you're fatigued anyway, that's not going to be in your favor, and it's going to be something that you're going to struggle with. So I think in the second half, that really kind of wore on Man United, and that's why I think they conceded so many times. But I think once it gets to a certain level, you need to have some pride and you need to have some kind of some character. Like once it's 4-0, you need to say to yourself, look, we're not going to win this game. We need to just limit the damage because this is going to get embarrassing. 4-0 is embarrassing as it is, but seven is unacceptable from Man United. Like realistically, even if Nottingham Forest went to Anfield and got beat 7-0, people would be saying that's a bad performance. But Man United, the team that is supposedly got the best centre backs in the world, the best left back in the world, Casemiro is the best defence midfielder in the world, Rashford's the most unformed player in the world, and they've got the best manager in the world. Getting cooked 7-0. That's on par with 8-2. That's probably even worse than 8-2 because with 8-2 there was a man sent off and it was a kind of team that was put together through injuries. This is their full strength team, a team that was a title challenging team, and you're getting cooked 7-0 at your biggest rival in arguably their worst season in recent years. This is an unacceptable performance, man. Unacceptable. Like, especially with how the first half went. United should have taken their chances, and they can only blame themselves, if I'm being honest. But the two guys that I thought were horrific and disgusting were firstly Anthony. I think with him, and it's not even the fact that he played badly, it's his attitude. He gave the ball away in the second half so many times and then refused to track back. And especially against Liverpool, who have Robertson and Trent, you can't do that. You can't allow them to have the overlaps on the outside. You can't allow Robertson to come inside the pitch, and you can't allow Trent space on the ball. And I think that's one of the reasons anyway why it seemed like Liverpool always had so much space in transition, especially because Man United weren't tracking back. Like, and Anthony as well. Like this season, for someone who cost £100 million, he's been nothing short of horrific this whole season, and he's played nearly every game. I think he's got 9 key passes, like 1 or 2 big chances created, and like 3 goals. I don't know where you kind of go from here, because realistically, he's been shocking. He's been absolutely appalling, and for the price tag that he's kind of cost, there's no real redeeming quality for me. Because even like in terms of, I know Darwin Núñez was getting cooked at the start of the season, and understandably so because he was playing very poorly, like missing a lot of chances, looked very clunky. But the one thing you can say to him is his body language was always positive, and he was always kind of working for the team. So even when it wasn't going his way, he was still pressing the whole game. He was still doing everything he could. He was still tracking back. He was still trying to help his teammates. And I think that's a big reason why Liverpool fans were very patient with him and got behind him, because they could see the effort and the kind of commitment for the cause. Anthony is the complete opposite. Like his body language is horrific, and the fact that you can't even like be bothered to track back after you lose the ball, for me tells me everything. Like, and that's on top of playing badly. Because yesterday he'd done every single time he'd do the same thing. He'd get the ball and obviously he'd cut in, and either he tried to whip in a cross which would go over everyone's heads and miss everyone, or he'd try and go for a shot which would go straight at Alisson, who'd quickly launch a counter attack, which he wouldn't track back for. So he's the first one that I think was horrific. The second one is Bruno. And Bruno, considering you're the captain of Man United, the captain, and your body language was the worst. Like, because I think it's well known that Bruno's big game record is appalling, absolutely appalling. And I mean, Ore said it multiple times in the group chat. I've been on Bruno's head for a minute and agreed with this sentiment. You can't win the big trophy sustainably if Bruno is a major part of your team. Just because of the way he is, just because of his profile, the way he plays. You can't have someone that needs the ball 25 times a game to have one or two of his passes or shots come off. It's just not efficient enough. It's not sustainable enough. And when you've got good players on your team, you're taken away from them players by him wasting the ball. And even when he's having a bad game, like I say, the least you could do is track back and help your team. His body language yesterday was abysmal, abysmal. He was throwing his arms up, shouting at his teammates. And I mean, Gary Neville said that he asked to be subbed off. I personally didn't see that. But if he did, as the captain of Man United, asking to be subbed off at Anfield after being cooked 7-0, and like it's not even like you're injured or anything, you should be stripped of that captaincy today. Because that's unacceptable, man. Really and truly, that's unacceptable. Like think of what it means to be Man United captain. Like think of the Man United captains that we know. Would any of them have asked to come off? I really don't know what to say about this guy anymore, to be honest with you. Like the audacity of you to blame your teammates and to throw your arms up and be whining and complaining when you're one of the worst performers on the pitch, and you have been in every big game that you've played since you joined this club, and then not help them, for me is appalling. And I think usually with Man United fans and most teams fans, rival fans spot the players that are not good enough before they do. And I think it will take about a year and a half, a year, for Man United fans to realize what we kind of have realized about Bruno, and for them to fully kind of be on board with moving on from him. But for now, it's real red flag alert. I'm not gonna lie, that's appalling. I think, to be fair, I think they should have known this was coming from when he was asked about his big game record, and he mentioned scoring a penalty against Spurs in a game they lost 6-1. I think that should have been a massive red flag. A massive red flag. Like the fact that you're even mentioning a game you lost 6-1, let alone bringing up a penalty that you scored in that game to try and justify yourself, it blows my mind, to be honest with you. Like he really strikes me as the type of person that would rather himself play well than the team win, than the team win and him play poorly. And that's not the type of players that I think you need for teams, especially top level teams. Like if you want to be a big fish in a small pond and go and play for like Aston Villa or something, go ahead. You'll be a legend at that club, and you'll probably get 20, 25 goals a season playing in Conference League or whatever. But if you want to be competing for titles in Man United, you can't be a player like of that kind of ilk. So when they move on from him, we'll see what they become. But in terms of the game and in terms of Liverpool, I think Liverpool were really, really good in the second half, especially the front three. I think they were, most of all, they were clinical, to be honest with you, because the intensity that they brought was always kind of there, but it's the fact that they weren't clinical in previous games that has kind of hindered them. But this game, they were really, really good. I think Salah, people, like we were even saying this day, people forget how good Salah is because his standards are so ridiculously high that even this is technically a bad season and he's still going to finish probably top 3 in terms of goal scoring, probably top 5 in terms of assists. Like his level as a player is ridiculously high, and his decision making is incredible. Like if you watch him on the break when Liverpool have a chance in transition, or even just when he's one-on-one with his man, he always seems to make the right decision. And he was pivotal for a lot of their goals. The Gakpo goal where he spun Lissandra out of his boots, the Nunes goal where made a good cross into the box for Nunes, and even he took both of his goals very well. So that was a great performance from Salah. Like you were saying already with Gakpo, I think he done really well in that false 9 role. I really like his profile. Like when I watch Gakpo, I think he is a good player. I don't know what level he'll kind of reach, but I like the kind of attributes that he has. Like this is going to sound like a bit of a stretch, but the way he can, like how tall he is, I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", and the speed and the way he dribbles with the ball as well as his ball striking and how he can go out to the wing. He reminds me of like a light version of Thierry Henry, if you kind of know what I mean. Obviously not to the same quality, but just the same kind of tendencies and how comfortable he is with the ball at his feet and dribbling over long distances. So I'd be quite excited if I was a Liverpool fan about Gakpo and Nunes as well. Nunes, I think, had a really, really good game. I think his movement caused a lot of problems because him and Gakpo kind of kept interchanging, and I don't think Man United were equipped to deal with that. So I think Varane and Luke Shaw, and Delo especially, they just seem to be in the wrong position the whole game. And I put that down to Liverpool's movement rather than them being bad players. I think Liverpool done very, very well there. So I, I'm not sure how this will affect Liverpool's season because they seem to be quite an inconsistent team this season. Like when they played against Man City at Anfield, they looked really, really good at the start of the season. And then next week, they went away and lost to Nottingham Forest, who I think that was their first win all season. So for Liverpool, they really need to build on this. Like they've got Bournemouth, I think, next week. They should be winning there. Definitely should. If they lose there, then I think the momentum they've gained kind of is a bit flat. Um,
Mm.
so we'll see how they build on it. They should definitely aim for top four, and it's definitely there for the taking because Newcastle have hit a kind of stumbling block where they're struggling to score, and defensively they're not as solid as they once were. And Spurs, I mean, they're just doing what Spurs do. So the fourth spot is definitely there for the taking, and Liverpool should be getting that. Man United, they just need to brush it off. To be honest, they need to brush this off. Maybe rest some players next game, change some stuff up, and try and get over this as quickly as possible. Because if they kind of have this hanging over them, it's not a good thing to have. Do you know what I mean? And if they don't win the next game, then the fans will probably start getting onto the players, especially. And I don't know how it will affect the rest of their season because they have been very good since the restart, but before that they weren't as consistent. And if they fall into inconsistency, they might get dragged into that top four race, which is what they won't want.
Mm. There's two performances or two players I want to look at. So we're talking about Bruno, innit?
Mm.
The thing with Bruno, the thing with him is that if you look at some of his assists, like they are quite incredible. Okay. Like he
Mm.
can pull off some. He has a crazy repertoire of passes. I'll give him that. But like, you actually look at him as a player, he isn't very good in between the lines. So like, he's not good on a half turn. You know what I'm saying? You can easily dispossess him. He obviously he's not quick. And that's not important for him to be mad quick on physicality. But I think the thing with him is just, yeah, like you're saying, his game in it is not necessarily something that you want to build around, and that's what I've always kind of picked up. But he was scoring goals in it, so it's kind of like you can kind of alleviate that or
But even then,
push
though,
that.
like even when he was scoring goals, like it's gonna sound like I'm hating, and I'm genuinely not even hating. I think the season that he came, he got something like 18 goals or something like 6 months, and like 10 of them were penalties. And like of course you have to score your penalties, but it isn't unfair to say
Overinflated it.
that
Yeah,
it's inflated your kind of reputation and the
influence.
way that you're viewed. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like
100%, hundred
and
percent.
like how you're
I
saying
do,
about
I
some of
do
his
agree.
passes and his ability, he definitely does have ability. But my thing is like, if it takes you 15 times trying to play that pass in a game for it to come off once, you're doing more hindrance than help to your team.
Yeah, no, no. Like for me, I've never been a big fan of him, but just what he could offer, really, especially in like your transitions. Like if he has space, he is a danger. Like he can strike through the ball quite well, can make some crazy passes here and there. But really and truly, his profiles or just his quality as a player, I don't think is not that it's not high. It's just like it's
He's
okay.
not fit
It's
for a
like it's
top
not.
team. That's it. Like
Yeah,
he's his ceiling is a big fish in a small pond, or like a good player in a top four team. Like that's it, in my
yeah.
opinion.
The only thing I can consider for Bruno is not playing in the midfield, potentially. That is the only way I think if for some reason United were to, win the league or anything and Bruno was to be a key starter, I think the only way that could potentially happen is if he wasn't playing in the midfield. And even then it's a bit, even then I'm still a bit very unsure about that. But I just think the midfield is just such a crucial position
Hmm.
that you have to have a very very key role in the team, especially as that attacking player, so to say. You need to be able to make the right decisions, You need to be able to make them very quickly. It's kind of like the whole team more or less relies on you to make these decisions, or else it kind of affects everybody in front of you, so the front three and stuff like that. Like even the games where like a lot of times when City play and like De Bruyne doesn't have a good game, how that affects the whole team. Or if Odegaard doesn't have a good game, how that affects the whole team as well. Because these players are just way too crucial, you know. So yeah, I don't think he is that type of player that he's sustainable enough for them, in the third place, wherever they are, the level they are at right now, he's decent enough for that. But in order to actually, push above and beyond, get to those 90 points, 80 plus, points, win the league, for example, I think they are going to have to at some point improve, on him. Maybe they can consider a positional change for him. Because I probably even think at the moment Bruno right wing is probably better than Anthony, because Anthony is another one that we spoke about. So positional change, something, or maybe coaching, although Bruno is not a young player anymore, and he just seems like the type of player he is really. So yeah, I don't know what really they can change per se, but yeah, Bruno at the heart of that midfield, I don't really see United, winning the big trophies. But yeah, we'll see.
Mm. And then the final player is a player that we've been talking about, Mohamed Salah. And you know what? The way he played, and obviously you can see his evolution over the last couple of years as well, how he's a complete player. He's a complete player. Like he's a good playmaker. You can see like as much as the guy is goal hungry, the guy can still combine with his teammates. His weight of pass. You see one thing I always look at with players that you can say are playmakers or attacking players is their weight of pass. And it's also is like a thing of when they pass the ball, does the person really have to overextend themselves to get there? Is it weighted nicely and cushioned well? And his way of passing is very good. Like I have to give him his credit and his flowers. Like, and that shows he's a top footballer, man. Like, get away from just maybe he's not like the top aesthetic player, but still, man, like his decision making, his way of pass, his understanding of his teammates and those around him is excellent. You get what I'm saying? So man has to give him his props. Like the guy is a top quality footballer, man. So yeah, even though I'm never gonna be like his biggest like admirer or praiser, I can always give flowers to a guy that's a great footballer in it, and he's a very good footballer. I give him that, man. I give him
He's
that.
Liverpool's top scorer in the Premier League, no?
Yeah. He has
Yeah,
about 100 and
yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah, man.
Quite incredible. Yeah.
You see
Um.
the sorry, go on, go on.
No. What were you about to say?
I was gonna say, you see how there was a narrative for a while where United fans were like, "Oh, Luke Shaw locks up Mo Salah. Luke Shaw locks up Mo Salah." Mo
Nah.
Salah has the most goals for Liverpool against Man United.
Yeah, nah, he has a personal vendetta for them,
Like,
and I relate with him so hard. Because United can just be, but yeah, he loves playing against them. He loves playing against them. Yeah, I was gonna touch up on Anthony very quickly, before we leave.
Yeah,
Like
go on then.
the thing, yeah. So the thing is that if you're going to be a one-trick pony, you have to be incredibly good at that one trick, which Anthony is not. Um, his, like Dan was analyzing him when he gets to that right hand side. 100%. The only thing he's going to do is cut in all the time. Never goes outside. I don't think I've ever seen Anthony go outside on his right. He cuts in, and then it's either two things. He's going to try and whip the ball in, which again he's not very good at. He doesn't create enough chances when he cuts in and tries to. He always, like Dan said, he always misses all the players. Either goes out, or gets the defender clears it and stuff like that. He doesn't know how to find players from cutting in and using his left. Then the other thing he tries to do again is shoot. Um, Again, only knows how to shoot one way. I've seen so many Anthony goals. Well, not so many because he doesn't score that many, but the ones I've seen, he always left foot far post, all the time. Never goes near, always goes far. So predictable. A keeper's dream, really. His shots always usually get saved, and that's it. A coach talking to players who are going to come up against United is analyzing Anthony and is saying, okay, how do we defend against him? Simple. When he gets on that right side, he's either going to cut in and try and cross the ball. Either you stop the cross from coming in, or even if it comes in, they're never really that good anyways. He puts his shots in, very comfortable for the keeper here and there. Sometimes his shots, they're amazing. He scores them. The ones against City, that was a really good goal. But they happen so rarely that you can't really be a quality player if that's all you can do. And I think the right wing market at the moment is also very, very cooked. I don't know why that is. A lot of left-footed players, wingers, are not really coming through as much as, I don't know, the left side, for example. Um, but yeah, like, yeah, I'm sorry to keep bringing up Arsenal, but I'm just so happy with us right now. But like Saka and like Anthony comparison, like in terms of Saka goes out on the right. Even he finishes with his right. He has his finish. I was a bit critical on Saka and his finishing, at some point earlier on, when he started, but he was still young and obviously that was understandable. But now his finishing catalog is just massively improved. He goes on the right, finishes all sorts of finishes, and that's just something Anthony doesn't have. Anthony is still young, so to say, maybe something he can improve on. But at the moment, it's just, like you can't be a one-trick pony, and the one thing you can do, you can't even do it well enough. Then what really is your point? Someone like Robin, not to call Robin a one trick pony because he was so much more than that. He also had multiple very, but Robin, he enjoyed finishing in one way and he enjoyed doing the signature, cutting in with his left, but he was so good at it to an extreme level that even if you tried to defend it, there was nothing you could really do about it. And Anthony is not Robin, so he's gonna have to either learn how to finish other ways or adapt his game more, learn how to go outside, sometimes inside, confuse your defenders, Salah, for example, you never really know where he's going, make those right decisions as well, know where to pass, know where to shoot, stuff like that, but yeah, 100 million, I don't know, man. Like that is if any club is giving 100 million in the market, like the type of players you could get for 100 million, like oof. Yeah, I don't really know what it is with him, but yeah.
Yeah, he does. I don't know. He just doesn't add any purpose. Like when he has the ball, he has no purpose.
Yeah,
Like
it just
have you seen it? Whenever he gets the ball, he always cuts back. Like not when he's trying to shoot, but he kind of does that thing where he steps
yeah,
over the ball.
even his dribbling, which I didn't even talk about. Like, he's I don't know where to start on his dribbling. Like, sometimes he beats his players, but then he comes back and then he tries to do it again.
The Dan Burn
And then
example.
yeah, and then he keeps on, and I'm just like, do something with it. Then he will lose the ball eventually at the end, and it's like, and then you end up seeing a short clip of him doing something, something small on Twitter and but like he lost the ball. He didn't do anything with it, or he cut back and nothing happened. So yeah, I don't know what, like, what he's like good for, what his, not to be harsh, but yeah, I don't know like what he specializes in. He's not even fast as well. At least you say, okay, maybe you can have a winger who just runs, who just bursts. He's not even fast as well. So I don't know. I don't really know
He's
what he
like a
offers.
less. He's like an even more limited version of Pepe. Like they have
Yeah,
the same.
yeah,
They have the
yeah.
same poor decision making.
That's
They're
the
both
yeah.
extremely one-footed. They
Mm,
both beat their defender multiple times
yeah,
rather than
yeah.
actually like
Actually,
making a
yeah, yeah,
decision.
yeah.
I,
Yeah. It's I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
he's
know. Like
bang. He's a bang average player. Like
yeah,
bang
as a
average.
winger, you need to. There are things you just need to learn, or else it's just like you'll more or less be just a passenger in the team. Like you need to be able to influence your team from the wings, and there are certain things you need to know how to do, and he just can't really.
Last thing before we get, because we've been on this a lot, but with the Anthony Pepe thing, Pepe is a better 1v1 and he's got a better whip on him. Like Pepe
Mm,
can really actually curl it. So if Pepe was doing what Anthony was doing, which I know you're saying they do the same, but Pepe can actually whip it like in terms of
mm.
into the corners.
He had a better first
I,
season than Anthony's
Oh
had
yeah,
as
he had
well.
a way
yeah,
better first. Pepe could even take
exactly.
free kicks and stuff like that, which he did. And Pepe's faster too. A lot of times he even dribbled a lot better. Like he actually beat his players. His first season was definitely better than this current Anthony season. But then is that we just expected a lot more from Pepe,
Yeah,
which is why, like he was
Mm.
he was extremely slandered really badly. But yeah, Anthony just I don't
I think it's because at that point Arsenal weren't used to like spending big money on one player. So like for us to do it when we signed Pepe, everyone's like, oh, like, he's gonna be this and that. But Man United, like no disrespect, but they're used to spending big money on bums anyway. So like them making a big money signing and him turning out
And
to be
him
a
not
bum
turning up, it's not a big shock. Yeah.
is nothing new. Like they're gonna do the same probably next summer. Like it's it is what it is. Like they
Yeah.
do it every summer. Every summer they will sign a big money player who ends up being a bum. So
Mm,
this is just another one, to be honest.
mm. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
100 million is really crazy. Yeah, like
Mm.
really, really crazy. But yeah,
Let's leave United alone. Let's go on to you guys. Top of the league, last minute winner. Let me ask you guys. Wait, can you still you can hear me in it?
yeah, we can hear
Mhm.
you. We can hear
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys, how's your confidence in the team? Like, do you look at this team and think this is a well-oiled machine, or do you think we're getting there, but we're not there yet?
I think I think I think injuries have kind of hit like the Gabriel Jesus injury is bigger than I think people. Well, people knew it was big, but I think it's kind of, especially at this point in the season and in certain games, we see it a lot more than other games. Like the low games when we play against a low block, it's infinitely more difficult because no disrespect to Nketiah, but he's not close to the level that Jesus is on the ball. And when him and Martinelli play, they're not as kind of fluid as when Jesus and Martinelli play. So I think that is not that it's giving me less confidence, but I think I would be more confident if he was playing week in, week out. And I think that's one of the reasons why we haven't maybe looked great against both Bournemouth and Villa. But that being said, the mentality that this team's shown multiple times this year has given me a lot more confidence like than I would usually have. Because like we could have easily beat Bournemouth, I don't know, 2-3-0 at the Emirates, and it's a nice win, it's a comfortable win, but like it doesn't really do much for morale. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like even though we shouldn't have been 2-0 down to Bournemouth anyway, the fact that we were 2-0 down and came back to win 3-2 in the last minute is a huge morale boost. Like all the Arsenal journalists, everyone who was at the stadium said that like the atmosphere, like the way that the staff and the players were was like something they haven't seen in like decades. So like I think the fact that this team consistently this season, I think 3 or 4 times this season, has scored a 90th minute winner is is something that gives me a lot of confidence. But the only thing I say is we do have a run of fixtures that will determine the title, and if we can get through them fixtures unscathed, then I'll be supremely confident. But it's that kind of run where it's City, I think Fulham, Chelsea, and Liverpool. That run there, if we can get through that and we still are ahead, even if it's just by 1 point of City, then I'll be commit. I'll say that we're there, man. I don't think in terms of but like in terms of the way we're playing, I don't think there's anything missing because like there's only been I'd say 2 or 3 games this year where we actually have been the worst team on the pitch. Like the Everton game away, we were really poor, but it is what it is. And the game away to Leeds, which we won anyway, they were better than us on that day, even though like we won. But even against City at the Emirates, I think we were probably better than them. They were more clinical, but I think we controlled them a lot of the game. So I don't think we're like bad. I think we're definitely up there. And I think as a team, tactically and performance wise, we're definitely where we should be. I don't think it's by a fluke or a coincidence or anything. I think we're definitely ready for this title challenge. Whether we win or not is yet to be seen.
Mm. What about you, Ori? How do you look at Arsenal? Are you
you.
comfortable, or you still see some little weaknesses?
Oh yeah, there are definitely still weaknesses. I can't say we're a perfect team and stuff like that, but like Dan was saying, yeah, like the things I'm seeing with Arsenal this season is just unlike any season I've really seen before. Like these types of results are the types that you just think like Arsenal would just lose it, or not even like try and get back to the game. The away results against Villa as well, where we came back, scored that late goal. United where we scored late as well. Like in the past couple games, we've had a lot of very late goals. So you can see like the mentalities there. and you can see they really want this, which is something a lot of players in the past, in Arsenal, haven't really shown. They haven't really shown that drive or that desire. Honestly, before the season started, I did not see us in the title race or even at the top of the league and stuff like that. Probably thought we'll finish third. I thought we'll probably give the top two maybe a bit of a struggle, but I didn't really see us in this position that we are. I honestly do not think I honestly did not think that the level of players we had was enough to kind of be at the top of the league at this point, 5 points clear. I think a lot of players have also kind of proved me wrong in a way. Not that I had, particularly any, not that I didn't like these players. I thought they were brilliant and fantastic. But I always thought that there were some areas we could have improved on, or even just brought in a lot more competition. Um, and yeah, just seeing how they're all together. 5 points clear, right at the top. Everybody's playing incredibly well. It's just it's really amazing to see. Also with Jesus being out from like December, um, you know, like even with Jesus, you'd think that would even still struggle in the to kind of like be at the top, 5 points clear. But without him, and to have gone this long till March and was still 5 points clear, playing with Nketiah again, no disrespect to him, but not as good as Jesus, and not as good as any of not as good as Haaland, for example. So to still be in there, and not just in there, 5 points clear. It's really something to see. In terms of whether I think we'll win the league, again, I can't say for sure because the Arsenal in the past, like the last couple of games, either last season in the top four race or some of our seasons in the past, it's always the same theme, and they haven't shown me anything, that would say. Obviously, these comebacks and stuff it's very different to what I've seen in the past. So maybe it's a kind of a new Arsenal, so to say. But yeah, I think winning this title is so much more important on different levels than one could even think. Not just the fact that we'll obviously win the league, but it would also show that we have the mentality to, at the end of the season, to not fall apart, to still be able to keep our head up, and finish as high as possible. And I think that's what this season would, because obviously if the season ends and we finish second, and Champions League back in, it's not an awful. In fact, if you told me second and Champions League at the start of the season, I would take that with open arms. But the thing is, once you're in this position, you just kind of have to. You just kind of have to. So no pressure on them, but yeah, I would really be looking forward to seeing, like Dan said, we have a couple tough games coming up in there. Oh, another thing that's very different about us is our away record. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we
100%.
have the best in the league at the moment, and
Yeah.
that is something we struggled so much, especially under like the late Wenger era, and the Emery era, and a lot of the Arteta's early era. We used to, in fact, away games were basically like it was. I remember there was a season. I think it was. I can't remember when it was, but we won
It
only
was Wenger's
four.
last one.
Yeah, we won four away
Yeah.
games the whole season. Four
No,
away games.
I think it was like, yeah, I think it was even worse. I think it was like two.
It was, yeah, it was
Whenever
like
you saw that blue away
yeah,
kit,
yeah. So
you
people
were
are,
getting cooked.
just know you just know. And now we're actually going, we're actually, in fact, our away form I think is even better than our home form, which is absolutely crazy. So yeah, that improvement of the away record is something that has helped us so much. And that is again very different to how Arsenal look. So everything they've showed me this season has shown that it's very different from what we're used to. So hopefully this last, stitch, they also do the same and show me that, it's different. And hopefully they go on to win the league. But yeah, again, 12 games to go. We just have to take it one game at a time and see how it goes.
Nah, I definitely think you man can win the league because I wasn't watching the whole Bournemouth game. So once it went 2-0, I tuned in and I watched it. I didn't because I missed the Nelson winner as well. But I watched I think it was like 65th minute or something.
Mm.
And I just saw the way you guys kept going. Like there wasn't a downbeat momentum of everything's against us. Because that's what's always been against Arsenal, soft Arsenal, tepid Arsenal, like you have no bottle. But with this, I know it's against Bournemouth, but there was still a sense of control, measurement. and there was still that intensity to go and score. But so I definitely think you have a big chance of winning the league. And overall, you've been the most consistent team and the best team in the league this season. So I don't think there's any reason why not to say that you can't go all the way. I think obviously Europa League is going to be a big thing when it starts to kick in,
Mm.
because Europe is a big factor in that thing.
Is that
So
not going to
that
be the
is
same for
something that
City
you have
though?
to look at. Hmm?
Yeah, I don't
Is
mind
that
us
not going to be
doing
the
it.
same for City though? Because City want to win the Champions League.
That's true. They want to win the
I mean, the
Champions
thing
League
with
more than we want to win Europa. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
they're more invested in the Champions League than
we're
we
not
are
going
in
to go
Europe.
full on strong.
But that being said, knowing Mikel Arteta, he'll play a full strength team for the Europa League.
He
On
just
Thursday, don't
yeah.
be surprised if you see the starting 11 at
Mm,
Sporting.
Right, and I think that's the key thing in it, squad management. Like Pep's
Yeah.
been there, done it.
Definitely.
So,
Mm,
and I mean,
Definitely.
Arteta's been there with Pep in it, but it's like when you're doing it yourself, you have your
Different,
own
yeah.
yeah.
principles and ideals in it. So you can't really say, oh, because Arteta's been with Pep, he's gonna do it like Pep. No, he's his own man.
Mm.
So
Mm,
like in that sense of experience, because people I've seen some Arsenal fans say that the way Mikel uses his players at times can be a bit questionable, that he can overplay them. He doesn't rotate enough. Like this season, bro, you've named the same lineup pretty much all the time. Only a couple changes, like maybe Vieira might come in,
Mm.
Tomiyasu here and there. Who else? Not really much
It's
changes like
not.
that in the starting
It's
11.
true, but Liverpool done the same thing for nearly 3 years.
yeah. I think a lot of people like. I think this is actually how it's meant to be. Really,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think you
I think
should.
I
I think
think
it's better.
I think a lot of people underestimate football players and stuff like that. Obviously, like I don't think our schedule has been so crazy in terms of like when we're playing Europa and stuff like that. He always rotated with FA Cup, Carabao,
Yeah.
even Europa group stages. We always rotated. But
Mm.
in the league, if you have players who are only playing once a week, like that is ideally, that is a perfect scenario. Even with an ideal with a crazy schedule, you have players playing 2 times a week. So, a lot of our players have had just one game a week kind of schedule, which I don't think has been too crazy. But yeah, I do get sometimes he's a bit in terms of substitutions. A lot of times he doesn't like to. He usually likes to stick with the same team sometimes. So yeah, I guess rotation can be a bit better, but um, you know, if you're playing the same team and they're winning, you don't fix something that's not broken. But yeah,
Yeah, I get you in it. I
Mm,
don't know. I've always thought like you kind of have like you have your starting 11, innit? The
yeah,
11 players that you trust, but then you have like your 3, 4 players that you're like, if anything goes wrong, I can
mm,
trust them to come in. You get what
mm,
I'm saying? Like the trusted like 3 or 4 players.
yeah,
Because it really and truly, I don't think you should really have a big squad. Like I don't believe in big
No,
squads.
yeah.
I think yeah, you should have your maybe 22, 23 players
Yeah,
mm,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing. And in that, obviously, you got 3 goalkeepers. So
mm,
starting 11. So maybe you have like 4 players on the bench that you're like, if you put them in, the quality barely is different, or they
mm,
add something
Yeah,
different. And then maybe
yeah,
you have
yeah.
some
100%.
other players that you don't really trust, but they're there for like squad morale,
mm,
sort of, they've been there, done it. You get what I'm saying? Because the leadership part in the dressing room is just as important. You need to
mm.
have those steady Eddie sort of players, isn't it?
I
That's
think we
just
do have
my
that
take
though.
on it,
I think
but it works
mentality.
differently.
I think bringing in both Jorginho and Zinchenko is important for that leadership though. Like
Mm,
whether Jorginho plays a lot or not, which I think he probably will, especially in Europa. I think having that mentality is going to be very important in
mm,
the kind of crunch games, and especially with Jesus coming back. I think them three, because they've been there and done it, they'll be very important for the crunch games. That I don't know if you saw, but like even Jorginho, when he was on the sidelines coaching the players while the game was going on against Bournemouth, like uh, being that involved after coming like 2 3 weeks for me is a very very good sign and shows that someone's really invested and wants to this team to win and do well. So I think that would be very important, like you said, and having them players on the bench as well as even if they're not your kind of first option to bring in and affect the game, it's still important for squad morale. So we'll see how it kind of pans out. But yeah, I do agree.
'Cause, I mean, Arsenal have some options off the bench now. I mean, Vieira seems like he might start to play more consistently a bit. But then you
Mm.
have Nketiah that can grab you a goal. Trossard,
Smith Rowe.
Nelson. I do like Nelson.
Yeah.
ESR.
Mm.
You got a squad. You got a squad. If you keep them fit, I think you have more than enough to keep you going. What's this guy saying? What, what, what the hell?
Well,
Hey, Pav, fuck off, man. Hey, hey, big up Pav though. Big up Pav.
in terms of I think this summer is going to be very interesting for Arsenal, really. And think that I don't think it changes much. Okay, maybe it does a bit, if we win the league or not. I know we're going to, sign a lot key players this summer. But yeah, winning the league it'll be kind of interesting to see how summer is going to go per se. But yeah, the fact that we can build up on this squad is still so crazy because these guys are still so young and they're already playing so well. And the fact that we can still add more quality to it is just it's quite nice to see. But yeah, I think we're an upward spiral at the moment.
100%, man. 100%. And talking about the competition that you guys will probably be in next year, let's look at the UCL. What games are on? And PSG Bayern.
Ooh,
That's a
Um,
big one.
that's a
That's a big
big
one.
one. That's a
Both
big
neither team is really in great form either.
yeah, and none of them really look too comfortable in terms of
Um,
that game is going to be really good. Um,
Tomorrow the games are kind of dead. It's Benfica, Bruges, and Chelsea, Dortmund. Chelsea have to win that game, man. Chelsea have to, even though Dortmund are in very good form. Like they've won
yeah,
every game since the restart. But
mm,
at the end of the day, like no disrespect to them, it's Dortmund. Like
yeah.
they're the ultimate like bottle job mentality. Like, and they're a German team in Europe as well.
Oh yeah,
Everyone
I would
talks
say,
about
I would say, I would say Chelsea. I would say Chelsea have to
Chelsea have to
surely Chelsea have to
at
surely
Stamford
Chelsea
Bridge as well. Come on, man.
surely Chelsea have to beat them.
2-0, I think Chelsea will go through.
Probably see Spurs
what's
beat
his name?
Milan actually.
Same. Yeah, I think Spurs beat Milan as well.
When's
Uh,
that? Is that Wednesday?
that is
Yeah.
a
But no
yeah.
one's gonna watch. It's PSG Bayern, man. Who's tuning in to watch Conte ball when PSG are playing
Thing
fast?
is, I think Mbappe has a big game again. I can just see it. I think he's really prepared for this tie. Neymar has been confirmed out till the end of the season.
Mm.
Um, yeah, huge, huge blow. Like, it's really disappointing. The Neymar, his injury record and stuff like that. But yeah, I think yeah, like a lot of teams, this Champions League season is like, it's really crucial for them, like the PSGs and the City who have never won it. So yeah, I'm sure Mbappe, and Mbappe and Messi, they're on form right now. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Yeah.
Two players that I'm looking for to step up. What's his name? Felix has to step up for Chelsea
Mm.
because as much as yeah, I like him, he's talented. There are some issues in his game. You get what I'm saying? And he's young in it, but he
Should
has
the
to
owners
step up,
really
man.
be on
Yeah,
his
I've not
side?
watched that many Chelsea games, but I don't know, from the bits I've seen, he seems like he's been playing well, has he not?
But like
No,
realistically,
he has
like he's
many
a
good
lone
touches
player.
and many good.
Why is
Huh?
it his responsibility? Do you know what I mean? There's guys in that team that are like there's £100 million winger in that team. Why is
Mm,
the responsibility not on him to turn up?
mm,
Because
mm.
Felix, the bigger player, and he should be the main guy in my opinion. When I'm
Really?
looking at Chelsea,
He's a lone player.
bro,
Just
a
because
player
he's
of that
talented.
quality,
Yeah, I
yeah.
get that he's very talented, but like there's £100 million man on the wing that's about to go 007. It's time to rise, man.
Um,
Hey.
the thing is, I don't know. The thing is, tomorrow will actually be really interesting. I'd expect Chelsea to go through, but um, I'm really interested to see like the lineup and everything um and how they set up against this Dortmund side. But
If
yeah.
if if they go out, I reckon Potter gets sacked. I think
Yeah.
Ooh,
I think
really?
he gets sacked. Yeah, I think because Dortmund's not a big hitter, man. Like Dortmund's a team that
No,
you
that's
should be
true.
beating,
Ideally,
and like
especially at home, Stamford Bridge. They already won
yeah,
it now, but still, they need to just probably get that early goal. Just kind of,
especially if they lose as well. Like I think if they draw maybe and put up a good fight, or
yeah,
they win but Dortmund score a goal like
mm,
and win in extra time or something, then he
yeah,
might stay.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
if they
yeah.
lose, then he's gone.
If they lose and they don't score something like that, they lose like 2
He's
0 or
gone.
something, then he's
He's
gone for
gone.
sure. He's gone for sure. Yeah. Um. Yeah, there's still Sterling as well too. I don't know. hasn't really had the best season. Um, but the thing is, I when like he's always in there. He's always trying to make something happen. I don't know, but I guess it's
I
just
think it's a creativity problem, though, no? Because
um
like Sterling's not a creative player. Sterling's a
yeah,
player that's
yeah,
like
that relies on
he's in and around the 6 yard box. He's gonna finish chances.
mm,
Like
mm,
they have a lot of players like that, to be fair. Because Aubameyang's the same.
yeah,
Aubameyang's if
yeah,
he's in and around the 6 yard box, he'll finish his chances. Well,
yeah,
maybe not now, but he would.
yeah, he would,
But
yeah,
if
yeah.
Mason Mount's
I've never
the
really
main
seen like
creator,
I've seen Sterling. To be fair, I said I haven't watched as many games, but I still don't see Sterling like running in behind as much. I don't think he
yeah,
really
that's
like
true.
he's not doesn't really he's not comfortable with them. How the midfield. I don't know. The Chelsea midfield has always been one that's really like where is Mount? Where is um I think Enzo is probably the only guy in there that probably looks like the guy that can probably play a forward pass.
Hmm.
But yeah, at the moment, I don't really know what Potter is working at. It's just so hard to believe that he's this bad. Really, I don't know. Um,
I think it's just I think it's a whole kind of bunch of factors that are
yeah.
working. Obviously, like his style probably isn't made for a club like Chelsea because he's
Mm,
very, very pragmatic. Like
mhm,
he
mhm.
changes literally every game based
Yeah,
on the opponent, which
yeah.
for a big team you might not really want. But at the same time, he's inherited a squad which have profiles that don't fit each other at all. He's
Mm,
working with a board that clearly are not listening to him, nor do they respect him. Because let's
mhm,
be honest, Graham Potter is not sanctioning these transfers. Like the
mm,
board is not going to Graham Potter and asking who do you want. The board is buying players and telling Graham Potter use him, use him, use him. And a lot of these profiles don't fit together. Like their midfield and their attack especially. They're just a whole bunch of random players. Like realistically, how do you get Mount, Felix, and Havertz on the same pitch? There's no way. There's no way that you can get them three on the same pitch. But that being said, they're still underperforming, and Potter definitely has to take some responsibility. So I don't think he's a bad gaffer. I just think he's a bad fit for Chelsea, and
mm.
I think they probably should move on.
Nah, I hear you, man. I hear you. They will all be revealed tomorrow if they go through. By this time, well, I think by this time tomorrow we'll find out.
Mm.
The second player I'm looking at is Musiala. As much as I rate the kid, I love the kid in it, but bro, Champions League, you gotta step up, man. This ain't about having good feelings for anybody. Like this is money time. You get what I'm saying? So he has to. I mean, he's 20 in it. Like it's not by force, but bro, if because I rate him highly in it, but like if you want to be one of the best players in the world, then you have to step up in the Champions League in it. And bro, he's one of the best players for Bayern right now. So no excuses in it for him, especially because Bayern are in a good position as well. So he kind of has a bit more of a luxury to impose himself in the game. Because in the first leg, I thought he was way too tepid. Um, Obviously, PSG put a good block, so it was difficult for him to get on the ball. But I don't think he expressed himself very well in that game. But yeah, he's a player that I'm looking at and saying I need a big performance from you. So yeah, that's a player that I'm looking at to step up big. Any other players that you're looking at to stake a claim for themselves, or
Mm.
you just
And
to the
what
big
across this whole kind of first
just for
thing of
this week?
Champions Leagues?
Just for this week's.
Uh, Let me have a look. I think someone at Spurs has to do something. To be honest, anyone has to do something at Spurs.
Well, there's only one
They have
person.
they have to win that game as well.
So big game for Kane actually.
Yeah,
This first season is actually they beat Milan and they get to the quarters and they see like a favorable fixture. Then season
because
could
you
change,
know they're getting the winner of Benfica and Bruges as well. You know that for
or
a fact.
even Porto or Inter.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, if season, that's what with the Champions League, your season can just change like that. If you just win
Mm.
like look at the season where Chelsea won it. How they just picked up form, beat the teams they could, and got to the final, won it, and that's it. Obviously not like I see Spurs winning the Champions League or anything, but yeah,
Yeah,
at least
for
the first step is beating Milan, and then they can see how they get on. Bayern and PSG, that one's really hard to call. Really, uh, Benfica should go through already. I think they're already ahead in the tie. Then yeah, in terms of players, yeah, like I said, I think not really. a very niche call, but yeah, I think Mbappe would have a really, good game. I think. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. It's on a Wednesday. I think I'm gonna miss that.
Mm.
Work,
Ooh.
don't work on it. So
Also, really interested to
let's
see
see.
how Bellingham goes against Chelsea too. I think that one's also something like a lot of people
Bellingham.
will be
That would be
looking.
like an audition. If he has a great game,
Oh,
the rumors will start
yeah, he'll
flying.
start flying. Yeah, definitely.
With them Liverpool aggregator accounts
Mm,
they've
mm,
been chirping for the past 3 years, talking about
mm.
Jude has named his dog Jurgen and his cat Mo Salah.
And I'm also curious how to see Leao also gets on for Milan. I thought it was pretty decent the first fixture, but yeah, try to see how he gets on in the reverse one. But yeah, it should be an interesting run of Champions League games.
Apparently, in the first leg, I think, or one game recently, he played as a striker, I think, or something.
Mm.
Can't remember
Yeah,
which game it
he's
was.
but yeah,
He has the
he's
minerals.
yeah, yeah. Even when he plays on the left wing, he's really kind of just like inside on that left. He's not really like a touchline, he's not a touchline winger really. He's like
Mm.
always, right in there. He's someone I'll actually be kind of interested in us, signing.
Yep,
Has a
yep.
very nice profile, yeah. But yeah, I'll see how he does against Spurs. Good audition again as well.
Mm.
So yeah, people, I think that's it for us this week. Sorry for the lack of content over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, just things going on, so it's hard to always stay consistent with these things, but we'll try our best to. But you might know the usuals: like, comment, subscribe, and share with your people. And yeah, make sure you're looking at the Instagram, all of that stuff. But yeah, people, we out.